And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and we're going to be discussing The Wheel of Time, episode number 7. We're going to jump right into the beginning because that is the best part of the episode. If you don't watch The Wheel of Time, if you're not even interested in the series, watch the opening of episode 7. It's like 5 minutes. It's completely worth your time, especially if you're a fan of fantasy in any way, shape, or form. It's just badass battle. This pregnant woman, it's Rand al'Thor's mother. She's pregnant with him, about to give birth. And in the middle of the battle, she's having to, fight for her life. Kills a whole bunch of dudes, really badass. It ends with Rand's adopted father, being there helping deliver the child. And then, um, yeah, all that revelation. On that note, I also go into, and then we'll go from there. So we have the badass battle, and then the ending, the revelation that yes, um, in fact, Rand is the dragon. Uh, I don't know that I liked how they did it in
Yeah.
terms of the way they unfolded. He just was just like, "Oh shit, I'm the." He just like had these memories of like, "Oh yeah," and then he starts shooting perfect with the arrow, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I could break down that door," and oh yeah, I was weaving, I was doing magic in the underdark, as I'll call it. Um, oh yeah, I did this thing. Oh yeah, I did that thing. Oh. He ends up going to a woman who has the ability to sort of see your path, and she sort of reaffirms some of his thoughts as far as his origins. But yes, Rand is the dragon, and him and Moraine are going off to challenge, the Dark One. But going back to the opening battle, Rand revelation, the way the episode ends, those specific things. What were your thoughts?
That battle was so cool. That was uh that was my most favorite fight, in the series so far. I think that was the best choreography they've had, and like if it's gonna be like this from here on out, definitely looking forward to the rest of the series, even though I've been enjoying it so far. Like you said, I really don't like how they presented Rand being the dragon. The fact that he just kind of goes like, "Yeah, it's me. It's me. I'm absolutely sure." It felt like there should have been more to it, or like a moment of revelation in like a time of need or something. Rather than him just going, "Nope, it's me."
Yeah, I wasn't wholeheartedly against how they did it, but I did feel like because they're trying to say that he just got this feeling and he's tying it into what he heard when they were in the Underdark on that walkway. And so I understood like the necessity to do it because in the book, it's never really a mystery. You don't really 100% know who it is, but they're not trying to confuse you and say,
It's
is it
pretty obvious.
necessary?
Yeah.
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 So for them to finally just come out and say it, I was happy. They finally just decided to come out and say it. But yeah, like you said, I don't know 100% necessarily that that's how they should have done it. But dude, that beginning sequence, it lays the groundwork for Rand himself, trying to figure out who his mom is, who uh, Tam is, because Tam's not his dad, but who the fuck is he? Like, he's got this sword now. And a lot of those things take a while to be revealed in that first book. Oh shit! In
Well,
that first
yeah,
book, but I I understand that they're trying to speed things up. They're not really sure how many seasons they're doing, so I get it. Uh, and I'm not mad the way that they did it because they're slightly feel like they're doing things out of order. Uh, and like I said, I'm only 2/3 of the way through the first book on. I don't want to say it because they always give me shit, but audibles. But they it's it feels like everything's slightly out of order. But by her by Moraine and Rand getting together and going off, it feels now like it's finally starting to come together. It's just taken a while for them to not get their footing, but lay enough groundwork to where we believe in the story, and now it's really going to start to take off, and that's what it feels like to me.
Like, yeah, and I do feel like, it just felt a little abrupt, but I do feel like you said, it was obvious in the show in a lot of ways too. They kept talking about his red hair like it was a Harry Potter scar or something. It's like, oh, you got red hair, you're one of these people.
Yeah.
Whereas they don't do that for any other character. They don't describe any other their characteristics as special, and you usually only get those special Mary Sue characteristics if you're the guy. And so it's clear now. Well, they've come out and said it. Rand is the guy.
The other interesting thing about the episode, and like I said, I know I've read the first book, so I know a few things, and I do know a few other things about the series, but I'll only go into what the show specifically says, so as to not spoil the books. But there's a moment where they're in the town, and Perrin sees somebody that he recognizes, and he's like, "Isn't that Padan Fain?" And we see this figure come out of the gate, and if you've been paying attention to the entirety of the series so far, this character has been in several scenes hiding in the distance, just sort of looking on. This character was in the very first episode.
Mm-hmm.
This character has been around. And the fact that this character used a gate should say a lot based on what they've told us, how this world works. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it, but I will say that if you had to name the top 10 important characters in this universe, that is one of them. And so they're supposed to be in the end of the book, and we're at the end of the season. So finally that character is making themselves known. And so I'm assuming that'll be a big part of the next episode, is because the group is still in town, and Moiraine took Rand by herself to go, do what they're going to do. But yeah, any thoughts on that character? Have you noticed that character popping in and out of episodes?
I talked a lot, I think, in our first episode about the first episode where, I mentioned how suspicious he was in that scene because, he was like, everybody's panicking. The forces of the Dark One are attacking the town and everything. And, he's just kind of chilling and shuffling out of scene without, any real worry on his face. He, almost like he saw it coming, or at the very least, he's not worried about it at all. So I've always been suspicious of this guy.
I just felt like he was similar to Marvel or whatever. He's like the Watcher.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you think he's like the type of character who, like, his role is to not interfere with these things. Like, he knows what's going to happen, but he can't personally, sort of be a part of this.
That's what it feels like. Just because every scene he's in, he's not really swaying anybody. He's not really giving a whole lot of information. Like, everything he's doing just feels like he's an observer.
And that could be the case, like maybe he's, and keep in mind, this is someone who hasn't read the books yet or anything. Well, but maybe, it could be that kind of thing. And, the wheel does weave a pattern, and his job is just to make sure that, it happens as expected. And, every event we see him in is supposed to happen. Like, it's hard to say at this point, but, he seemed more sinister to me in that first episode. He was.
Oh, I don't disagree.
Yeah, a little too lax about it.
Yeah, I can't say. As I said,
why the fuck you bring it up?
Well, yeah, he's important because I know all the answers to him specifically. Like I said, if I had to say if there were top 10 important characters that are going to be a big deal throughout the series, he's on that list. So I'll leave it at that. You said you're how far in the book? You'll find out very soon.
Well, yeah, his name just popped up again, so
there you go. Yeah. We had, so as I said, Moiraine goes into this bar, and there's a woman there who has one of her abilities is to sort of be able to see your future and sort of know what your destiny, if you will. And I'm going to rattle off all the things she said. I wrote them down. For Perrin, she saw yellow eyes and blood dripping down his mouth. We can make an allusion. We saw what he did in the last couple episodes involving the wolves. Clearly, that seems tied to that. She told Moraine basically her girlfriend would be her downfall. That's interesting. And I'll say this: I don't know what any of these things mean. So when it came to Nynaeve and Egwene, she saw a white flame. She didn't specify which was which, but she saw one with a white flame and one with a ring of gold. And then with Rand, she saw him holding a child. And then we got more, obviously, with Rand later and her. But any thoughts on any of that specific stuff, or any theories, or anything? Like I said, I legit don't know what any of that means.
I was singing Ring of Fire when
Johnny Cash.
immediately. And do a burn ring of fire. But they, I think her name is Min, Min, if I remember correctly, because she's in the books. But this is what I was talking about, the out of order stuff. She's pretty early on, and it's basically a scene just like that. Like she runs into Rand.
The weirdest part with the book stuff, if you probably notice, is the Logain stuff.
Yeah,
he just talked about it.
It's just the way things are handled. And as you've noticed, and they cut out so many characters. There's a time issue, so I get it, but yeah.
Well, I will say also the white flame and the gold ring thing. I feel like that's potentially saying that one of them will join. As far as the flame, I'm not really sure, like whether that represents one of them taking the armament seat or whatever it's called, the head seat of the of the God. I'm about to call them the wrong thing. What is the order of
Aes Sedai?
Aes Sedai. I was before I accidentally name them after a berry, because I was going to call them like the Akai or something but the Aes Sedai. Yeah, I think one's going to take potentially take the seat, the head seat in the Aes Sedai, and the other will join, or potentially one of them will be taken by the Crusaders, basically the children of what are they called again?
The Light.
The Children of the Light.
I think they also call them White Cloaks.
Yeah, one could be burned by the White Cloaks. That's the only thing I think. And Perrin's one is really vague, because we know about the yellow eyes with Perrin. We know that that's his power.
That's the strangest one for me that they're being weird about in the show.
Well, yeah. in the books, it takes them not as long, because there's kind of a character who they've omitted so far. And I don't know if he plays a important role in later books. So if he's not in the show at all, it wouldn't be a huge deal. It just kind of helps Perrin find who he is himself. But you could do that with essentially anybody. The way they do it in the books is really cool. But yeah, it's almost like they're trying to make it like a mystery. But the way this whole thing plays out is very the fanboy D&D kind of stuff. So them not being super specific yet isn't like a thing that's bothering me so far.
I kind of want to ask you some questions about that, but I really don't want to spoil it for myself. Whether he meets a person or a giant wolf in the woods.
Well, see, my theory on that.
It's a character.
It's a character. But I'm thinking they may be saving them for season 2, and they'll dive into that later, and that'll be way out of order. But that's almost what it feels like. Like you said, it feels like they're holding off and keeping it a secret. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because the character in the book, Larry, it's not like a spoiler. It's just they're able to communicate with animals. It's kind of like they can sense them, and it's very druid-esque.
Yeah, that's what's been going on so far. Yeah,
but that's why I was saying, D&D wise, that's pretty much what they've been alluding to already anyway. So it's not, if you have any D&D knowledge, it's not super far-fetched. You're not nuh-uh. It's pretty.
The show, and I'll give it to them. They tried. It wasn't great, but they tried with Matt. I said last week that they're going to need to explain writing Matt out because Moraine's sort of theories and everything don't work uh, based on how Matt just didn't go. But they sort of also all said the same thing. Like they almost said the exact things I was saying. They're like, well, what if he's the one? And they basically wrote it in that Moraine is just pretty sure he's not. But even if he is, you notice she was gonna send the red Aes Sedai after him.
Yeah.
So in her mind, she doubts he is, but if he is, she's sending the heavy hitters to go deal with him. And so it was the best they could do. I mean, like I said, the actor that plays the part left the show during production. They had to write him out. They've recast him. He will be appearing in the second season as a different actor playing the part. So they had to figure a way out to write the character out, and this is the best they came up with. And it works for the most part, I think.
Whenever they're going to explain the change in appearance and voice, you think they're going to have one of like the Red Aes Sedai throw a fireball at his face or something,
beat the
and
shit
he's
out
got to
of him.
heal up.
I wouldn't be the way they kind of explained it. I'm not too assed up about it because you can basically undo that. He, goes to check on his sisters. When they come back, he feels better. He's not doing this. He maybe have information for him even. Hey, this is what I've seen. This is what's going on. Because right now he is going so far down that path that it's hard for anybody to even trust him. Even Rand, who's his best friend, it's hard for him to trust him. And in the books, they do a very similar kind of path between those two, like what's going on right now.
I have a feeling.
There's a really cool scene in the book when it's just Matt and Rand. And kind of like when they bust down the door with his shoulder and stuff. It was a different version of that. And it was way cooler. So when you said like fireball and stuff, that there was a fireball scene and stuff. It's really, like I said, it's like a Rush for Time version, but it still feels, even when it's slightly rushed and out of order, I still feel like, well, I mean, they have an end game. They have the books. Books are all done, but they have a outline as to what they want to do with the show. And that to me is reassuring.
Well, yeah, and that may be them. That may also be the way they bring Matt back into the picture because, it seems like because she didn't have time to rescind that order that he's probably still gonna have a confrontation with like a Red Aes Sedai, and maybe we'll meet back up with his mentor character again. He'll learn some stuff. That fireball scene you mentioned will probably happen, and he'll rejoin in the group because he's curious about what's up with the White Tower. Why did they send an Aes Sedai after him? He's doing reconnaissance and he runs into the rest of the group, and but then again, that also creates another plot line where they're at odds with the Aes Sedai again. So, just that one change, but couldn't be helped, potentially altered the story quite a bit.
Yeah, the Matt thing, like I said, they didn't have a choice. They had to change it up. I think they can figure it out though. The fact that they already cast it and they've already taken the steps to deal with it. And I can tell you right now that this episode, yet again, a lot of changes. So I don't know. I don't know how this season's going to end, to be completely honest with you. Even knowing how the book ends, I was like, they keep changing shit. And so I don't completely know. I mean, it's like they're changing things, but it's sort of similar. I mean, it I don't know. We'll see. The other thing was the relationship between Nynaeve and Lan. I thought that was pretty cool. We get a little bit of, they've done a really good job with Lan in this show. Like, shocking. It's weird. Like, he's the character that I feel I know the most. and there's just a lot of him, and we on the emotional level, we had all the stuff where the ward had died and all his stuff with Moraine. I don't know. He's the character they seem to be developing the most. He's really cool in the book, but I think I find it odd that he is almost in a weird way becoming like the main character.
Well, we talk about the difference between the books and the show. They've done such a good job of expanding his character, and I'm not done with the first book. Well, I finished it, but it was 25 years ago. But I have not read the first book in so long that this is almost like with fresh eyes. And Lan's in the books. He talks with Moraine all the time.
Oh yeah.
But it's just in the show they've done such a good job of, I don't know, expanding his character a little bit that I've actually am like, we talk about some of the changes and this feels rushed or that. I actually have liked the expanding of his character in the show because I liked his character in the book, but the show's done a great job of kind of focusing on him a little bit more and expanding his character as well.
They slow down with him and they give you, moments of, the moment where he has the little religious thing he does several episodes back. And like we get all these little nice moments with him, which we arguably should be getting with a couple of the other characters with Perrin and Egwene and even Rand to some degree. And I just, like I said, I don't know that I'm necessarily complaining. I like it. I love Lan. He's him and Perrin are like my two favorites on this show. But it is weird to me that clearly whoever's writing the series is a huge Lan fan.
Well, yeah, to the point where as someone who hasn't read the books yet, I had no idea that this character wasn't featured as prominently in the books. From what you two are saying, because we certainly got a lot of them. He's often a point of view character. Is he not a point of view character at all in the books, or
he's there, but it's Rand's story. You know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah, it's not really
okay. Yeah. And I could say that now because the show did. It's Rand's story, and yeah.
Well, I will say he's a good sort of way. He's a good way to view the Ward characters, and and not only that, like you said, we've gotten so much with him. It'd be hard not to see him being like a big point of view character later on in the show. Because we have gotten so much of him, but I feel like because we have gotten seemingly even more of him than we have of Moraine, that she's gonna die sometime later. Just there's some red flags there.
Well, I feel like in the way that they've set this up, the book is set up, I don't want to say like Harry Potter, although they both started around the same time as far as writing them goes. The way it's set up as far as structured point of view wise, in the book it's very centered on Rand, but then it kind of follows Perrin, like it and his group, because when they get split up, just like they do in the show. But it feels like it's multiple points of view, but like we said, it focused on Rand basically from the jump. So, and that's a big complaint online, is that people are like, how are they trying to pretend like this is a mystery? This was never a mystery in the book. Like from chapter 1, you knew who it was going to be about.
That's been the weird direction of the series, is they, for whatever reason, made the decision that who's the dragon was going to be this big mystery. And like they've held that all the way until this last episode, and then even the parent stuff, like there's like, we're not going to go into that. Like, and I don't know. I mean, it's a right. You do need some level of mystery, and on a television series, you need things to hook people to want to come back. So I guess that was partially the thought process behind doing that. But
yeah, but that's to me a dumb thing because they're all facing basically an unknown already anyway. I mean, you see the Faceless, you see this, and then you have I don't remember what his name is because even in the book they talk about him. It starts with a B. It's not Beelzebub because that's the devil, but it's similar to that. But the dude with the little fire eyes and whatever, and he's trying to convince them to come because it's the Dark One. It's trying to get over, but they all keep seeing him. They all keep doing it, but even regardless of them being, coming across him in their dreams and these kind of things, it's still very almost singularly focused on Rand. So you don't, in the book, you're still, that mystery is how are they going to confront him? Are they going to be able to survive it? To me, they didn't need the mystery as to who it was to add to that, because even in the show, I'm like, well, what the fuck are they going to do? Because I haven't got to that part in the book. So I'm really curious as to how they're going to, fight the Dark One. What's going to happen when they go to the Eye of the World? Are they going to, fight Illithids and Beholders? Like, I mean, I know those are all Underdark references, but that's what it feels like. So to me, there's enough mystery, even not being a giant D&D nerd, that you don't know what's going to happen. That felt like something that they didn't need to do. That was something extra that didn't need to be there.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if the big reveal was going to be handled the way it was handled. That was like I said, it was fine and all, but it was just like they could have done something cooler. I would have done. I don't know. I would have done something a little cooler. And I don't know why the arrow thing annoyed me, because we saw him doing archery practice, and he wasn't doing great. And then he's sitting there. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm the dragon," and he's hitting all bullseyes. and it's like, I mean, I don't know. It's like, yeah, you could always do that because and then even in the book, he's a good archer. Like.
Well, yeah, it was weird because it's one of those things that before he started hitting the target and everything, it felt kind of odd because I was thinking to myself, I'm like, maybe Rand's not the dragon. He sucks pretty hard at archery. He's like, and he's been doing that his whole life. Like, but it was a weird scene. Like, but that. Yeah, it makes it feel like the character has no natural talent, that magic has to kick in for him to do anything.
I was thinking it was funny when the group had their little fight, and then when Egwene comes out and she's like wanting an apology. I was like, it'd been great if he'd be like, I don't apologize to no one.
It's like, I'm the fucking dragon.
I'm the fucking. Like, you see how good I can shoot this arrow? It's like, I got to fight the Dark One.
Well, and that's
shit.
About how close, different aspects of this show is to the book. Talk about Nynaeve. Her character in the book is 100% the character. Like, I don't know if it was just a casting choice or if this girl has read the books before and just was 100% on board with that character or what, but it is the likeness between her character and in the book and her character in the show. It is spot on. The constantly just fighting and being irritating and the standoffish and hesitant of trusting these. It is like almost page for page exactly what happens in the books that are going in the show as far as just character development. Like, it's not the same story, but it's how they developed her character. They've done such a great job with some of these characters that I am curious if some of them were book fans, because it's almost kind of like Henry Cavill in Witcher, where everything he does looks like Geralt, like everything, his movements, mannerisms, voice. Nynaeve is a very similar kind of feel to me after reading the books.
Yeah, I was okay. That is one thing I was actually wondering, if Nynaeve was so distrustful that it was almost a hazard in the books as well. So she's like that in the book too. That's interesting.
Oh yeah,
also,
she's irritating as shit.
but it's part in the book. You got to remember, the characters are younger, and she's like a motherly character.
But yeah,
And
but in the show they all look roughly the
they
same
all
age.
exactly. So
But
it's a
they
little
do mention that.
yeah.
They do mention that in the book though, that she is only slightly older than them, and she's the youngest wisdom
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
So it is motherly, but it's almost like big sisterly is what it should be, because they say it. They say motherly. And they say that in the book too, but it's almost like, that big sister whose parents were pieces of shit and just bounced, and she was left to raise all the kids by herself.
Yeah, actually.
That's what it's like. It's,
Yeah.
she sees herself in that paternal taking care of kind of role, and she shouldn't necessarily have to, but that is the role that she was put in. So I understand. It's still irritating sometimes. I'm like, Jesus, but she does a great job replicating the exact same character from the book almost.
Right, yeah, because you like you're saying, when you have that many, and I guess they're not literal siblings, but they feel kind of like siblings and some, but when you have that many younger people you're taking care of, it's hard not to feel like you're a parent, So yeah, I guess it does make sense, but it was weird that when, for instance, when Matt was cursed and everything, she didn't go right to the one person that knows about magic that they know. She decided not to not mention that. They already made it to the tower, but she's so distrustful. She's like, nah, if I can't heal him with these herbs, then I guess Matt will just die.
Oh, okay, never mind. I'll tell you guys right before I go to sleep. Just remind me what we just talked about, and I will reference that. I don't want our channel to get shut down. So
Gotcha.
but
But yeah, actually, that's about it, though. I don't.
Oh, you just want to hear what Spencer's got to say.
I legitimately don't have anything else in my notes. Anything else on? There's what, 2 left? Yeah, it's 9, right?
I believe so.
yeah, it's set up fine.
So yeah, there's only 2 episodes left. Any thoughts on? Any more thoughts on Wheel of Time episode 7?
I do think that they, after they made it to this new town and where they're going, my biggest curiosity at this point is, are they all going to run in after Moraine, or are they all going to basically be stuck at the city as a bunch of Trollocs from, a different part try to come and invade? Or, I don't know if the rest of them are basically going to find their power and purpose while they're waiting on Moraine and Rand to come back.
The
And
cool
that's what
thing is
happened.
that I don't know, because this does not go down this way in the book. So yeah, you're 100% right. What you just described could absolutely be what they do, because yeah, this is all going down differently. So that's why I mentioned Padden Fane, because I was like, I have a feeling they're going to. He has a role at the end of the book, and I was like, I think they're about to go into that. I mean, he's there.
Yeah, there's no other reason for him not to.
Yeah, and all I've got to say is this season feels like it should be longer. I guess they felt it was kind of a risk and they wanted to see how it played out. So we only got 9, but I'm definitely hoping for a longer season next season.
They could have done 12 and restructured this and brought in some of those other characters, and they could have. I think they could have.
I think they might going forward. I think when Matt left halfway through filming, they're like, fuck. And it just kind of threw a wrench in that, because with all the money they've spent on Lord of the Rings and all these other franchises, and they basically just gave Jackson, hey, do you want to put out your 19-hour version of each Lord of the Rings movies to where
yes.
it takes you 6 days to watch the trilogy. Well, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So I think that the way that they're doing this, that the next seasons will either have slightly longer episodes or it might go a couple episodes longer. But I think that this season, with Matt leaving, how they kind of structured, the different revelations and the characters kind of figuring out what their role is in the group and those kind of things. I think him leaving, they had to restructure this season a little bit. And I think when, they rediscover him or refine him at the beginning of next season, you'll basically have to backplay parts of book one because you'll have to reveal how he becomes what he does. And, so it's a little bit of bouncing around, I think, but so far I'm not real mad, but I didn't have a 24-year investment in the series. So I get how some people could be a little frustrated at this point, but me personally, I've enjoyed it so far. So I am curious as to how they're going to do it, but I'm not upset or frustrated at all.
Oh yeah, not at all. Just wish we had more is all. Like, not frustrated about it, but definitely feels like we could have used a little more to round out the season, I think.
Oh, I don't disagree at all. I think with, if they gave 2 more episodes, that part of the journey that the characters were on, they could have spent an extra episode apart and kind of, because in the books, that's a big part of what's going on right now. It's several chapters. And that kind of goes into Perrin and Egwene, and there's a lot more with Tom, the Bard character, Tom Maryland, and I think that exploring those characters a little bit more that were pretty important, even in the show momentarily. I think that they could have done a little bit better job, kind of rounding them out. But like I said, I think that initially they probably had a lot more stuff in mind, and then Matt leaving fucked them over. So they're trying to get through the first season basically and keep you hooked. And then I think they'll probably make up for a lot of it next season.
I think so. I think that's the plan. It's going to be interesting too left and how they approach this, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. I mean, the only, I've been complaining a lot in this review, but I watched Witcher. I watched the entire season 2 of Witcher and I absolutely loved it. And so, having seen another fantasy thing and thinking, yeah, well, that's written better or that I like this better. And so it sort of hurts it a little bit in that right. But it is a good time to be a fantasy fan. I'll say that. The amount of options and different shows. And like you said, we have a Lord of the Rings series right around the corner. We've got the Game of Thrones origin, or not origin, but the Dragon series coming up next year. It's a lot of good stuff coming up. But yeah. Anything else?
I think you said it all.
All right. I appreciate everyone listening. Yeah, we'll be back next week.
Bye.
Bye.